So from the home page, we go to My Client Groups, and from My Client Groups, we'll go to Workforce Structures. Now you can also go to the Functional Setup Manager, which is the setup and maintenance. And from there, you can search for position, job, and all that, and you do it from there also. Over here, this is the tile. This is the Workforce Structures. Can you all see this? I'm circling this.
Yes.
So once you click on this, you will be taken to the page where we have already been here in our last class when we were looking at the business entity, business units and managed legal entities and all that. So here you will find everything starting from positions to jobs, to locations, grades, everything in one single place. Okay. So let's start by defining a location. Location details. Click on add here. Now, depending on how these pages have been organized, you might see different version of the pages, which are basically the same. Okay, but the look and feel of the pages may be different. I'll show you the difference in a few minutes. This type of pages is called as responsive pages, where you have to fill up the information like like a questionnaire form. Okay, so one by one questions will come and you fill them. Why are you creating this location? So this is the reason basically. So you can say reorganization. Then you have to fill in the location details. You can leave this blank also. It's not mandatory. So this is the location set, which is the reference data set. If you remember, we had talked about reference data sets. So keep it as common set for now. And you can just say SP Dubai or London or whichever location you want to define. This is the inventory organization in case it is linked to the inventory organization also. Otherwise, leave it blank. You can have certain attachments created and attached here for this particular location. Okay, and then you have country. Let's see. So depending on the UAE or and these are the shipping details, whether it's a designated receiver. You can set this up, which are used by other modules. Again, you might have geography specific information. This is for Spanish related, or you might have some for France, for Spain. So depending on what you need to enter, these can be specific for that geography. This is for US specific. US, there's like a lot of reporting to be done. So for that reporting purpose, you need to define them. Otherwise, once you are done, they submit. Now, once you have done with this, if you want to go back and take a look at that particular location, if you go here, it will get you to the same place, right? So instead, let me show you the other screen. So I go to setup and maintenance. Look for location here. So you have manage locations. Click on this. You see the structure of this page is a bit different. From here also you can create, and you can search for existing department locations that you have defined. So SP Dubai that we defined is visible here by searching. So we created in that type of screen, which is the responsive screen. And here we are able to see it. Okay. You can create locations using this create button as well. Here it is more non-interactive kind of thing. All the individual fields are there, just choose. Over there, it was more like a guided, tour kind of thing where it was prompting you to enter this, enter that, and so on. So let's say we call it SP London. And you can put latitude, longitude here as well. And this one is a bit missed.
One question. When these workforce structure items which we create, right, location, position, everything, do we need to follow a specific sequence for it, or we can create them parallelly?
See, when you define a position, you must have your department and job done already.
Okay.
So that's one major, dependency. And when you define job and position, it will be helpful if you have your grades done already. But you can always create the job, then again go back and define your grades.
Okay. The location, all this we can do parallel because there's no dependency.
Correct. The major dependency is the position where the job and the department needs to be defined upfront. Let me just retry this. I think this particular field is causing an issue. This is the workforce structure. So if you click on this functional area also, you will get all your workforce structures here. Okay. So let's say I go to this manage locations. And there are specific lookups also that you need to define as per your requirement.
Oracle will deliver some of the basic
Yes.
predefined.
Yes.
Okay.
I was defining it as Londonderry. It should be Londonderry.
And again, these values, city, town, these all are loaded by geographies,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So whenever we start the HR implementation, the geographies have to be loaded the first thing, right?
Correct. Okay. So once you are done, you click submit and this will. So once your location is done, we go on to department. This is manage departments. The look and feel of the screens are similar. At the top, you have the search panel. Okay, and this is the search results where you will get your results. And these are the action button, credit, edit, create, edit, depending on how you want to define it. So let's say I click on create. This is SP. Okay. Now you see there are two options. One is you can create a new department, or you can link an existing organization and make it a department. So there could be a finance department, or legal entity, or one of those different EEO orgs that we were looking at. So if it is already defined in some other screen or in some other type of organization, then you can pick that up and define as a department. So let's say I call it as SP Human Resources. And I will suggest keep using this, your name initials, so that you know what you are defining. Otherwise, there's so much of sample data, you might get lost in the data that is already there. So once I put SP, I will see my locations over here. Okay. And all the information is displayed. And I could have a manager, designated manager for that particular organization, or that is optional, or you can leave it blank. This is the cost center information where you can link with the finance side. Finance mostly understands these units as cost centers, right? We may call them department, or we may call them by some fancy name, but finance will only understand it in terms of a cost center. So those cost centers you can link here. Lot of organizations also have the department names by the cost center. So you may not say HR, you might say one-to-one. Okay. Or in the common parlance within the organization, when they mean HR, they may be referring to it as one-to-one, or some other names or cost center codes that have been assigned. So these are the workday information: start time, end time.
One question. So the cost center, we always link it, or we associate it with the department only?
Usually, yes.
Okay.
Okay. But there might be a finer definition, because what happens, like depending on what type of organization, like, HR may be a department. Is recruitment a department? Is benefits a department? Is it a cost center as well?
Okay.
So these are some questions, which are probably gray areas, depending on the individual organization structures or how they are defined, how they are organized. You would have to answer them. You have to take them at the time of implementation, or at the time of, deciding on this.
So, but mostly you have seen it always as coming at the department only.
At the department, yeah, or it might go a level below the department, like, benefits may be a center, right? So department as a whole, it might be HR services, okay, or employee services. And within that, you have recruitment, you have benefits, you have payroll, you have, employee welfare, and so on and so forth.
Okay. And if I have to say in a single line, what is a cost center? What do I say? How do I define it?
Cost center is where you will book all your employee costs who belong to that particular department.
Cost. Does it mean the salary, everything goes in the cost center?
Could be. Sometimes companies have a separate cost center for all employee direct salary related expenses. whereas everything else might go into a separate individual department. So there might be a corporate account taking care of the salary, or they might get linked to the salary itself, to the cost center itself.
Okay. But it is more relevant to finance and payroll, right? Not
Correct.
from.
Correct. Now
In
from
nature,
here
there are
you
so
can
many.
do, yeah.
There are so many terminologies, right?
Yeah. And they are actually, truth be spoken, they are more or less, they could be either or kind of thing, but we should not be excluding, different things.
Yeah.
So here there is a linkage with your Google Maps. Okay. So you can look at the, based on how you have entered your location, it will appear on the map here. Okay, so if you put a very specific zip code, it can just display on the map. You say larger map, it will take you to the Google map. Okay. So from within the application, you get a view of the particular location. So now our department is done. So we have defined location, we have defined department. This is where you have all the grade related information. Okay. So you can see there are different options here. Manage grades, grade rates, grade ladders. Okay. So depending on how you're going to be defining it, you might need a grade ladder, you might need a grade rate. So grade ladder is that grade scale I was talking about. How are they going to progress from one grade rate to another? So you click on manage grades. Again, you can search or you can create. Click on create. SP grade 1.
So, sort of for any particular enterprise, when we are creating job position departments or grade, how, I mean, where it will show that yes, it has been created or not?
You have to
Because only after
search. Yeah, you have to search for it. And if it comes up in the search results, you know it is created. Or you have to go and query in the tables to see whether it is created or not.
search in the implementation of project.
No, search is in this particular screen, like grade screen. You can see grade.
Okay, so we have to go separately, but it will not show in the enterprise itself in that column.
Enterprise itself, no, it will not show. Because see what happens when in any organization you have lots and lots of jobs, lots and lots of positions, lots and lots of grades, right? So either you have to run separate queries to see everything in one single place, okay? Or the other option is you just go and query your position. So whatever job, department, they are linked, they will all appear together. Okay. So here we are creating the grade. So you have grade 1, grade 2, and like that. So this is again UK specific legislative information, school workforce, England school workforce and all that. These are the grade steps. So you can define the grade steps here, add row one at a time. And you can say, okay, this is the grade. You can give a name and ceiling step. That means at each level, they will be progressing step 1, step 2, step 3 in that way. Okay. Or we'll first look at it from the grade rate perspective. So you say next, and this is where you can define the grade rates. Okay, so you have different legislative data groups. So depending on the legislative data group, you can define your respective grade rates. So currency would be driven by the grade rate. Okay, so you have US legislative data group, let's say. Okay, and then you say create a new rate or add an existing rate. So suppose you want to create a new rate, you would create a grade rate here. You would need to give a name. Let's say SB grade rate. Okay. So it would be linked to the salary frequencies. Is it an annual figure that you are entering? And what is the currency? So if it is a monthly figure, your annualization factor will become 12. So whatever you are entering, system will multiply it by 12. Nowadays, most companies, when they give a salary, they quote an annual figure, right? There are companies which will quote you a monthly figure, and they will multiply it by number. They will multiply it by 12 and make it into a annual figure. Okay. So that is why this annualization factor is there. And for these grade rates, you can define a min and a max. Midpoint is auto calculated. Oh, sorry, 1,50,000. Let's, it's an annual figure. Let me make it 1 lakh to 1,50,000. Midpoint is 125. You can either enter this or you can enter the values here. And then these are the individual grade rates. Okay. And this is the review page, grade rates. So you can review all that you have entered. If you are happy with it, you say submit. You get a printable page also. So which is like a single page where you can take a printout or generate a PDF and keep it with you. Now,
So
if I want to look at it, yes.
The grade steps which we saw, right? Is it the grade ladder again?
Yes, grade ladder is the path on which people will proceed. Okay, so that is called as the ladder.
Okay. And then steps?
Steps is those how they will proceed. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4.
So we configure the grade step. Do we configure grade ladder also?
Yes, this is a grade ladder.
Okay.
In the system, literally everything is configurable. That is where the challenge is, you know, that is where you don't have a straight away yes and no answer always.
If you get time, show us grade step and grade ladder also, no?
Sure. What happened? It shouldn't take so much time. Oh, the other thing could, that's the issue. We'll join back using the same link, okay? If it gets disconnected again.
Okay.
SP, let me try another one. Manager M1, let's say M1 grade. I don't know if that I linked it to the UK. So if that caused an issue, US, it was US. Let me not link anything here. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. Okay, the first one is here, second one is also here. Okay, so the grades that we have defined, they are now appearing. So if I look at the SP grade 1, these are the grade details. These are the grade steps. Once you define them, you will see them. And these are the grade values. Okay, so depending on what are the different grade rates that have been linked to this particular grade. Now, I will show you the grade rate and the grade ladder also. So we defined the grade rate. So I'll first start with the grade rate. So there is something called as the US, which is mostly there in the training environment, US annual salary grade rate. This is a sample grade rate that they have created. And for this, what are grades linked? You can look at the associated grades that are linked to this particular grade rate. Okay, so you have admin 01 starting from 10,000, maximum of 30,000. Admin 02, 20,000 to 40,000. Admin 03, 30 to 50. Admin 04, 40 to 60, 50 to 70, and so on. Okay, one below another. You have all these things visible here. Now, along
So I
with
can
this,
use,
sorry.
so I can use this existing one, or I can
Yes,
create my
you
own.
can use existing one and you can link it for your employees and all that. Or you can create a new one also. Just like
The
we
one.
created, yes, you can create one new one here, or we have already created one, which is that SP grade rate. Now for this, what is the grade that is associated?
It's the SP one, the Dubai one. No, sorry.
SP grade 1. Dubai
Grade
one
one.
was our location.
Yeah.
We were creating a grade. At that time, we created a grade rate.
Correct, correct.
If you remember, there was an option to link an existing grade rate or to create a new grade rate.
Yes.
Shivani, you okay with this?
Yes, yes.
Don't get confused. So here, I created that grade rate there. I need not have created it.
Okay.
Like when I did that SP M1, I didn't create it. I didn't create a grade rate, right? Now, if I want to look for anything specific, I can search for it here like this. So it will only show me here. So let's say M. If I search, there is nothing here, right? So it will not display. So this is just a search option that you see here. Now, if I want to edit it, if I want to add some grades into that grade rate, I will go inside and these are my grades. So I can click on this grade row, add a row. So I will do a correction here and add a new value into this, add row. And then click on it. Okay, and I can go and search. So I have my M1 grade, which is without any particular grade rate now. So I can link it over here. And I can give a min and max for this. Let's say it is 150,000 to 200,000.
So, so earlier you mentioned that if we mention again in the salary part more than maximum, it will show error, right? By this
It will show you a
value.
warning message. It will not throw an error.
Okay.
System differentiates between an error and a warning message.
So it will take this data itself, right?
Yes.
Which we are
Yes.
creating the minimum
Correct.
and
Correct. I will show you that when we go to employee and when we assign salaries and all, I will show that to you. Okay. Now I will click on this submit. So my grade rate is done. Grade rate is in that way, it's very straightforward. There's not too much of complications around this. Now, when I go to grade ladders, so this is a ladder which is there already called Manufacturing GM Union. So what are the grades linked to it? By looking at this, you can see this. These are all the grades which are linked to this particular grade ladder. How does the ladder work? These are the individual ladder values. So when you say admin 01, these are the individual grades which are linked. And what are the rate values that are there? These are the individual values which are there.
Again, this value comes from the grade rate only, right?
Correct. Grade rate, or you can have individual values being defined. Okay. And then against that, you can see it. So this is the ladder that you're defining, how they will progress. Okay. What are the different grades, the progression from admin 01, 02, 03, like that, which are part of this ladder. Now, once you have defined this, you have the grade.
In these grade ladders also we can create new values. Is there anything like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay. Same as grade rate.
Correct. Correct. So then you have the what we call as the progression grade ladders. So when you look at the progression, let's say the grade ladders. So here it shows you what is this grade ladder. This is the facilities grade ladder. What are the grade steps, grades and the steps? So this is the sequence is 1. So there are 4 steps involved in this. That means typically you will see every year they get some increments. So they will start from 10, move to 12, 13, 14. And this might be the ceiling. That means they're top of that particular grade. Now they have to move to the next grade, which is facility 02. Facility 02, again, there are 4 steps. So they will start at this step 01, which is 16, then go up till 22. Here, what happens in most of these grade steps or the grade ladders, you have automatic